Welcome back to the Den and my series on Shadowrun character creation, where we are creating an example character in Shadowrun 3rd edition of a Dwarven Decker. So, in part 1, I covered what the priority system was. In part 2, I covered applying attributes to a character. In part 3, we're going to be covering skills. So let's get to it. And let's move the big black book out of the way. So, one thing that I did not cover in the attribute section was reaction. Reaction is your quickness plus your intelligence div 2. And your basic initiative is going to be your reaction plus 1d6. There are ways to increase that, but that's covered in the book for other things like cyberware and magic and that kind of stuff. It's something that we're not going to be going into depth with for character creation here. So this is skills, and with applying priority C to skills, that's 34 points. Well, if you count up what I've got here, you're going to see a heck of a lot more than 34 points applied. Well, that's because the 34 points would be better described as active skills points. So those are any skills where you are performing some kind of action in game. Like if you're going through and hacking into a computer system, that would be a computer's role. Um, if you're driving a car, it's car. If you're trying to do some kind of acrobatic maneuver and get out of the way while or climbing a building or something like that, it's athletics. Uh, so it's all active skills that are in the 34 points. And it's a one-for-one basis so long as you do not go above the value of the linked attribute for the skill. Those are listed with the skills in the skill section of the book. I've got them listed here because it's frankly very handy to have for when you're training up your skills later on. So computers is linked to intelligence. Intelligence is 6. So long as I don't go over 6, it's a one-for-one on character creation. Except you can't go over 6 in character creation, except in one very, very specific way. But I'll get to that. So we've got 5 intelligence, 5 computers, which is linked to intelligence. 3 for computers build repair, which is what the BR stands for, also linked to intelligence. All that kind of stuff. Driving a car is reaction, based off of reaction. QCK is quickness. It's fairly straightforward there. Where it is not straightforward is here on etiquette. That is listed as 2-4. Now, the reason for that is I paid 3 points to get a basic etiquette score of 3. But I decided to specialize in Matrix etiquette. Matrix is like the internet for Shadowrun, except it's virtual reality for the most part. So you've got the Matrix etiquette, so you know how to interact with people online. This character is far more skilled with dealing with people online than they are in real life. I'm sure you have figured out people like that in reality too. Um, so even though I had a base score of 3, because I specialized, that added 1 point and brought up the specialization to a 4. So it's specifically in matrix interactions, he would be rolling 4 dice, while in basic etiquette situations, because it's a specialization, you take 1 point away from your base. So that's 2. Clear as mud? Okay. When you specialize in a skill, you take the base skill, and then you basically treat that as kind of like a pool. So you have 3 dice available. You specialize, so you take one of those dice away from the base pool and you put it in the specialization, and that's now what your specialization is while your base score got reduced. Maybe that's a little clearer, maybe not. In this case, it's 3 points for a base 2 specialization 4. Anyway, so those are my active skills, and when you add up the 3, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5, you've got 34 points. So those are the active skills. Now, what are all these down here? These are my knowledge and language skills. You have your intelligence times 5 points in knowledge skills, and knowledge skills do not have a defined list. There are background knowledge skills, where you can have a background knowledge skill in any active skill. So you know the background behind computers. Say I had a background knowledge of computers at 4. I would roll 4 dice to see if I understood what John Titor was talking about with the whole IBM 5100, I believe it was, back in. And that whole computer system, you'd be able to figure out, oh, that's what they mean. Okay, so that's how background knowledge skills work with active skills. You know history for it. Now, other skills like security systems here, that would be knowledge of how security systems are laid out. And procedures would be, what kind of procedures security personnel would take in certain situations. Fences, well, that's not knowledge of, keeping people out of your backyard. That's knowledge of the trade of illegal goods and where to find people who are, skilled or have the connections to do that kind of thing. So those are your background skills. These program design skills in particular are for deckers to create their own programs. But that takes time, that takes downtime, and you would have to get with your GM to make sure what's allowed there and what isn't. And just a few general interest skills, because this is a person, it's a person, it's a character. So this character has an interest in cooking, classical music, and some physics. It just helps round out a character. So those are the knowledge skills, and now the language skills I've got listed up here are from here to here. For this character, I have English and Japanese. His English is at a base skill of 5 and a specialization in NetSpeak of 7. We're back to the specializations here. So that costs 6 points in the language skills that are available, which you have. I just realized I didn't tell you. For language skills, you have 1.5 times your intelligence rating in language skills. And so that cost me 6 points for a base English skill of 5, which is pretty fluent. It is not classified as native tongue. That would be a 6. But that's because he spent so much time online. He's kind of gotten a little out of touch with how to communicate with regular people, as it were. So his net speak is 7. He really knows what he's talking about there. He knows the jargon, the lingo, and all that. Now, you'll see English is listed here with RW, or read write, at 2. That's because your read write skills are by default, without paying any extra points, your read write skills are half of your base skill in a language. That's because literacy is on a downhill slide in Shadowrun. Most people don't read anywhere near as much. What they do read, they have a lot of iconography and pictograms. So they can generally read, but they might not be able, but they're generally not going to be able to read anywhere near as well as they can speak. So, English of 5.7, English NetSpeak of 5.7, English read-write of 2, Japanese of 3, and Japanese read-write of 1. Now, as you can tell, that's not precisely half because, again, in Shadowrun, you always round down. And that basically covers skills. So in part 4, we're going to be covering some cyberware, what these whole pools are about here, the combat and the decking or hacking pool that I've got written down there. And we're going to purchase a couple of examples of gear. So join me in part 4, and I'll see you then.